I mean, be prepared to binge eat, be prepared to lose relationships.
Yeah. So, when there's pharmaceutical drug commercials, they have at the end where they like fast paced talk like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
this may cause heart disease and blah, blah, blah. Well, we need these disclaimers with skinny culture to understand what the consequences are. Welcome back to the Rooted in Resilience podcast. Today it is a kind of solo cast with just me and Sarah, and we are talking about skinny culture. So, Sarah, I think a good place to start is what do you even mean by skinny culture? Like what does that mean?
So, yeah, we didn't have a topic before we started today, and this is just what seemed most relevant. And skinny culture, from what I've seen, is just a resurfacing of the desire to be unnaturally skinny or slim that maybe we would have seen in the early 2000s
Yeah.
or like growing up where I mean this definitely still exists. So like pop culture or like what you see in magazines hasn't changed. Like all the models are still usually pretty skinny, but for some reason that's become the at least on social media the like desired physique for a lot of people. And it's not so much like from what I've seen, it doesn't really seem grounded in health at all. Like, it's not like a new health trend or a new diet necessarily. It's literally a goal of being skinny and kind of doing whatever it takes to accomplish that again. So essentially,
Skinny at all
it's an
costs.
it's yeah, it's almost essentially an eating disorder
Yeah.
from what I've seen.
Yeah.
What have you seen?
Um I've seen this trend where women are purposefully getting rid of their muscle mass. So like doing just like trying to intentionally lose muscle as well. And like you and I are living examples of the consequences of skinny culture. Not right now, but when we were in high school, that was what we focused on like at all times, right? Like how to be as small as possible. And I guess the way that people are accomplishing this is just like extreme low calorie diets and it's Minnesota starvation experiment in real life.
Yeah, but like without disclaiming the negative consequences. So, just an example for anybody who maybe isn't on social media or just hasn't for some reason, like I don't know why, but I've seen it on our feed. Not that we're following anybody, but I think what happened was is we followed this one woman named Beth who has called out people
Yeah.
for posting this content and saying trying to basically encourage women to not listen to it, to say how just ridiculous and unhealthy it is. And so when I clicked into that, I think it led to the algorithm like showing us more of it.
Yeah.
And that's what was really shocking to me because up until that point, I hadn't seen that this was going on. Like, I feel like I don't even know how long it's been going on, but essentially it's just like an eating disorder being glorified and out in the open. And an example is just somebody's post that like comes to mind. And she's just saying, like, all right, skinny biatches, here's what I do in a day to remain skinny. And then I'm not like that's the voice. And then this isn't funny. This is crazy. And then it's just like her meals, which are like enough for a toddler for breakfast, enough for the toddler for lunch, enough for a toddler for dinner. And then that's it. And then the end, she closes it out with stay skinny and like thousands of likes. Like
No, it's millions.
millions of likes, and then you go
Yeah.
through the comments, and this is where it's more concerning because women are just like, um, gosh, I wanna while I'm doing saying this, can you pull up it's probably gonna be hard to say, you could pull up Best Post and read the comments that she goes over, but basically, they're like women who are saying, like, somebody said that it looks like I had an eating disorder the other day, I never felt better about myself, or like, I saw my rib bones last night. I feel like I'm being so successful. Like, just things like that. Like, it's literally an eating disorder,
Yeah.
but for some reason, it's getting a lot of screen time on social media without it saying, like, this should be sensitive content or this content should be, not shared or something
Well,
like that.
is it coming from, like, GLP-1s?
It
Like
could be. Yeah,
Ozempic?
that's
Like,
a good point.
you see these actresses who are now, like, frail thin because they've been on Ozempic for some number of months, and you can see a huge like, their limbs are so small.
Yeah, no, that's a really
Like,
good point.
I'm not here to shame people for wanting to be skinny, but I think that when we analyze this at the consequence of, like, health, and you and I both experienced consequences of this happening at such an important time in our life, right? So I'm 33 now, but when you were 14, I was 17, maybe even younger, 13 and 16.
14, I'd say,
Like,
around there.
I mean, I'm not going to speak for you, but you can talk a little bit about like what happened to you when you weren't part of the modern skinny culture, but you did chase like really, really lean, and like you're growing at that age. And I don't think any of us are saying you should be fat, and it's okay to want to lose fat and get fat off of you, but this is like the extreme. This is very, very, very thin skinny culture.
Mhm. Yeah, for an example, so, like, you're 33, you're able to see this content and possibly not be fazed by it because you've been through a lifetime of, going through this. You've seen how you understand how the metabolism works, you understand what it's like to actually work for fat loss and then maintain a healthy physique, whereas younger women are gonna be coming across this information. And then with the ability for basically anybody to access the GLP-1s, I could see how that's a huge recipe for disaster because you don't have to have like a medical doctor prescribe you it. There's just ways of getting around it online and you can get one. And so we could have 14-year-old girls who are already thin or honestly just healthy taking these drugs to match the unreasonably skinny that they're seeing on social media. So very concerning. And another example is that we had one woman in our course who's wonderful. She emailed me the other day and she said how something along the lines of it's so sad that she's seen her son's last two girlfriends. Essentially like don't eat. Like they're so skinny they don't eat. And I just feel like for a long time, the last 5 to 10 years, women were moving in the direction of the strong is skinny or sorry, strong is the new sexy, essentially, like this goal of let's be healthy, let's be curvy, let's be putting on muscle, let's not be bone thin. And now for some reason, 2026, we've made the switch back and we're going back to skinny is sexy.
Yeah.
And
I wish it came with a disclaimer. So let's work
yeah,
on the disclaimers for them, right? So
okay.
skinny culture asterisk. And then if we're in the asterisk text, what are the disclaimers? One thing that I see like right away would be prepared to not tolerate a wide variety of food, because we talked about this in the Minnesota starvation experiment studies with Kathleen. When you are in this like starvation state, so I think probably a lot of these girls are eating like 600 to 1,000 calories a day, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're in this starvation state, your digestive system, you don't just lose muscle mass. People forget that lean mass is not just muscle mass, and it also includes like your digestive system. So the Minnesota starvation experiment showed your digestive system will shrink, and it comes with extreme consequences. So they're not going to be able to tolerate gluten, potatoes, like just food sensitivities out the gazoo, just because their digestive system doesn't have enough energy to properly digest food. So be prepared to eat a very narrow amount of food if that's really something that you want to do. So that's
Yeah.
one disclaimer.
Okay, that's the first disclaimer line. And to touch on that, you said um lose muscle mass, but to like amplify that effect, in order to get skinny, they're likely cutting out carbs. So they're probably doing like a protein diet, protein and some fats diet. And just because that's the quickest way that people know to like lose weight. They think we're still living in an era where we think that carbs are the enemy, right?
Well,
And when I say we, I'm not referring to us, but
without consciously tracking, if you remove an entire food group, it's much easier to eat low calorie.
yes. So if we are removing the carbs, that further amplifies the reduction of muscle mass because carbs are very helpful for preserving muscle mass when you're in a caloric deficit, which is something that we talk about and emphasize in our Transform Fat Loss program. So, another disclaimer would be prepared to lose your period. I mean, it's pretty common when a woman is eating less calories than they need, they're going to stop cycling. And this
But
is
but at
exactly what
that
happened.
at that age, at least when we were young, I have no idea what public school systems are talking about hormones and periods. Like, I don't know. Do they talk about sex? Do they talk about like the importance of all of this? We weren't, right? And so I feel like that disclaimer for me at the time wouldn't have sunk in.
No, but the thing is like, okay, we said like 14-year-olds are exposed to this content. There's a grown woman exposed to this content. So maybe they would understand that that's not a good thing, but perhaps no. I think if your sole desire is to be skinny, you do not care. So you're right. These are just disclaimers. Like at the same time, Ashley, if somebody's sole desire is to be skinny, they don't care that they won't be able to eat other foods. They'll literally say in comments probably like, so glad I can't tolerate that food. It's one less thing I can eat.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that, and people who are listening who haven't been exposed to this yet, I am not being dramatic when I say
No.
things like that. That's literally what people are commenting and saying and promoting in this new era.
It used to be 1,300 calorie diets, so you would go online and you'd be able to see, like, meal plans of 1,300 calories. Now it's 1,000 calories.
No, 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 no. These days are I've seen 600 to 800.
Meal
Like
plans. That's a meal. That's a
so
meal.
I mean, I haven't dove like that deep into going through like what's available, like the resources available
Yeah.
for somebody seeking this skinny culture. But from what I've seen, as far as watching, like here's what I ate in a day to remain skinny. When you count up the calories, it's like 600, 800 calories. So it's
Yeah.
like an extreme, extreme, extreme. So another, do you have another disclaimer?
Yes, another disclaimer would be prepared to not be able to detoxify from anything. So another thing that the Minnesota starvation experiment showed was that your liver shrunk by over 50%, and your liver is like your one of your main detoxification organs. And of course, if your liver shrinks, that's like a lot of your detoxification power is just out the door, right? So you're going to be more susceptible to mold. You're going to be more susceptible to environmental contaminants. You're going to be having more buildup of toxins inside of you because your body doesn't have the energetic power to actually like get rid of the toxins. And so that is going to come, in the form of slowed stool. So you're not going to poop as much because your digestive system isn't working. So then your stool, you should be pooping every day. But if you're not pooping every day, some of that can get reabsorbed in your body. So you're just like going to be constantly exposed to toxins, and I think we see this now with more and more people just becoming like really susceptible to environmental toxin exposure. And it's not like their fault, but being in a low energy availability state, LEA state, does hinder your body's ability to detoxify. So I think that would be another disclaimer.
Yes, that's a good one. Uh, be prepared to
Eat in bathrooms by yourself. You can talk about that.
I was gonna say for this one, be prepared to never be skinny enough
Oh, okay.
because yeah, like
Yeah.
when you get to that again, this is just a glorified eating disorder. I don't know why, like, there hasn't been more
Yeah.
urge to stop this from spreading. But when you are seeking skinny, you're never skinny enough because you're always
Yeah.
like it literally just catapults into body dysmorphia, seeing yourself like as literally fat when everybody else in the world would see you as skinny. And that's why maybe in the comments somebody literally would write something like, I got somebody said it looks like I have an eating disorder yesterday. I'm so flattered because they're accomplishing their goal of being like so
Yeah.
unreasonably thin. So but you'll never be thin enough. You'll never be thin enough, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
okay, just to relate this back to me, there have been 2 times in my life where I have become extremely unhealthily skinny. And I am embarrassed to admit that one was within the last decade. So so I had my 2014, 2015 era where I no, is that the right? I think that's the right. I don't
No.
know. Never mind. 14 to 15 years old. It could be that time, but 14 to 15 years old when I did have a little eating disorder. So I had anorexia, where I was just really skinny, like just bone thin, in the name of health and fitness at the time, but it was just unhealthy. And then again, this resurfaced for me in the name of health again in around 2019 when I was doing the carnivore diet because um I was associating the reduction of inflammation and getting smaller with being healthier. And so I literally just wanted to be very thin and I accomplished that. There's photo. If I could post a photo, I would on this screen. But there's literally one where it looks like I walked out of a study where they didn't let me eat for a year. Like it's atrocious. And
Well, you also
that,
did the bikini competition at that time.
yes, but I could have done that in a much healthier way. Again, I didn't eat carbs. I saw a lot of my muscle atrophy. There's many things that I did wrong and that I had to learn from. But uh, your point about being more susceptible to toxins, it really applies to this, at least in my specific example, because immediately after that phase of being super skinny, if you've listened to our journey before, you know that we then, gained weight, got our cycles back, etc. But that is also when we moved into mold, and I was extremely susceptible. I became extremely sick, and it likely had to do with possibly the hindered ability for my body to handle any of that due to what I had put myself through the prior year. So I just want to say that anybody who has been exposed to this skinny culture or somebody in your life who's going through it, Ashley and I are not criticizing just for fun.
No.
This is literally two people who have lived experiences of being swept into this type of culture and seeing the negative consequences on our bodies. So that's why I do feel like I really wanted to talk about it
Yeah.
because I can see even now, like when I was looking at some of this content just for the sake of informing myself, there's always a part of me still that will glorify it in my own mind and sees it as like, even though I know it's unhealthy and I know it's awful, but there's always that part of me still that's like, I could be skinnier. Like I could be thinner, or I could be leaner right now. And it's so easy for that to happen. And we live in a world where we see these perfect ideal or what we think are perfect ideal physiques on social media and we're constantly then comparing our normal everyday bodies to that. And the thing is so much of that content is edited. So much of that content is like a snapshot moment of that person's life and it's not realistic. They probably released their breath a second after they took the photo and their body looks completely different. And it's just so easy to lose perspective on what healthy and beautiful actually is and what it looks like for you. So all that to say, it is really dangerous to have all of this just going on the internet without these disclaimers.
We've got more disclaimers.
Okay, okay.
So another disclaimer is like just honestly be prepared to develop an autoimmune disease. Like
Mm.
there's more and more information showing like low energy availability, low LEA is potentially the cause of autoimmune conditions, right? And it makes sense, and it goes back to, the whole, like, there's not enough systemic energy. The body is literally doing the best it can to keep you alive. You can't expect to starve and be able to thrive in other areas of life, and so I think
You
that that
can't
would
fight
be
off viruses, you can't fight off everything that you're exposed to that's related to autoimmune.
well, I mean,
Mm.
the immune system requires energy to function, like your
Right.
immune system, and so yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then another disclaimer would be just, like, be prepared for just extreme isolation, and I think that that's something that you and I both experienced from that time period where you really lose sight of, like, what life is, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be conscious of your food, but, like, when you become so focused on your body size, your wanting to be smaller, not eating, and eating low calorie, like, your life becomes focused all around that, and I know that feeling very well, and it's really sad because I lost years of my life, right, focusing on these things that don't matter, that didn't matter, and it's totally different than, like, a short-term fat loss phase. Like, a fat loss phase, you're you're you have a specific goal, you get in and you get out. When you are chronically living in this state, it becomes your life, and I w so many there's all these images that I have saved in, like, a folder on my desktop where it's just, like, my why, right? And I go back to them, and it triggers some tears because I wish I could go back to that girl and, like, hug her, right? My whole life was centered around being as small as possible,
And
and then other things fit into that, and so I think that would be another disclaimer of, like, it's kind of like a skewed perception of life, and your life's gonna just fly by.
mm, yeah, that's so true. Yeah, there's so many.
I'm not saying that I'm at that place right now, like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
I'm not looking for sympathy from
This is not a
anyone,
cry
like,
for help.
I'm reflecting back on these
Yeah,
states
yeah,
because
yeah.
a part of me wishes I never went through them, like, I lost so much of my college experience, I lost so much of, like, my athletic potential, um, just so and, like, like, you didn't even have high school.
Yeah. No, I totally see what you're saying. Um, yeah, we're this sorry, just to clarify again, this is not a cry for help. This is not us being in skinny culture. This is literally like the end goal is that maybe this could help catch somebody before they fall into it again,
Yeah,
right? But yeah, you're so right. I have so little memories
yeah.
of my high school phase because I was so in my own head. So
Maybe
like,
your body was kinda protecting you too to, like, not remember that time.
well, I mean, what I do, so like, you're right. Be prepared for this to consume your life in every possible way because I guess another one could be prepared to not be present in conversation because like a specific example for myself is knowing like in certain high school classes, I would be so concerned about what the people next to me and behind me were like what they saw, what my body looked like. So I'd be like sucking in, I'd be sitting up, I'd be like worried that I looked ugly and all this stuff, and I was looking fat. That I didn't learn. Like geography? What's that? Like I don't know.
Sarah
I'm
legit
just
does not do geography well at all. Yeah.
I okay. I have since gotten a college degree, so I do have like education, but there was so much time where I was so fixated on what other people saw and how was I looking fat? Was there a stomach roll when I was sitting in that position? That yeah, I don't have memories of just laughing and being in that group of people. I lost all of my friends.
Yeah.
I graduated early because I hated going through the halls feeling like people were like looking at me. Like it was just an awful thing. And it is largely fueled by extreme body dysmorphia and just the fear of being fat and wanting to be skinny. And it's not a healthy approach to it either because it's just further um, intensified by not eating because all of the physiological effects that then has on your body and your brain.
Yeah.
So it's literally such a bad place to be because it all feeds into itself and makes it worse and worse and worse as the deeper you get into it.
Yeah, I think in something that is hard for people to understand, and this doesn't just come from skinny culture, this is from like a variety of other things, is people don't realize like how long it takes for the body to come out of these type of situations. And so I think that is another disclaimer of it's going to take a long time for you to heal. And we at the time when we're making these diet extreme choices, like we don't realize that like the decisions that we make now are really impacting our future. And I think that that was one of the really troubling things, and something that we see with others coming through our course or emails or transform, where people expect to feel better right away, right? And I think that that's like not a fair that you're setting yourself up for failure with that type of mindset, because it's just not possible. It took you this long to get to this place. Like it your body needs some time to like recover and get energy levels back, turn functions back on. And so that that is going to require so much mental work, because you came from this period of wanting to be as small as possible, and then, oh, now I have to have patience to be able to recover out of this. That's where you see these people like the all in, right? Where they were so skinny for so long, and then they just say, "All right, I'm all in," and they binge. Well, the body's going to respond by storing like extreme amounts of fat because of the state that you're in. And so it's not only like while you're in this phase, when you're trying to come out of it, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard. And we went
Mhm.
through that. It's not fun.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And to make it worse, which is also what we went through, is that that initial fat gain is all around your central organs to begin with
Adults,
because
babies.
your body is protecting you. And so you gain all the weight back in your core. And that's literally what makes recovery for so many people so hard because it's not like you're just for most people, it's not that you're getting this beautiful hourglass shape at the start. You're getting it in your core because your body is trying to protect you and save you. So that can be really hard. And oftentimes you don't see your shape become more reasonable and
No.
shapely until you continue to eat and other places fill out. But it's really hard to go through that. So yeah, be
Yeah.
prepared.
Okay.
Be prepared.
So
Disclaimers.
do you have any more disclaimers?
There's a ton more. I mean, be prepared to binge eat. Be prepared to lose relationships.
Yeah. It's like as long or longer with pharmaceutical. So when there's pharmaceutical drug commercials, they have at the end where they like fast-paced talk like,
Oh
"Oh, this
yeah,
may cause heart disease and blah blah blah." Well, we need these disclaimers with skinny culture to
yeah.
understand what the consequences are. If you are chasing skinny at all costs, be prepared to not have normal hormonal cycles, or like be set up for success in the long run. Be prepared to not digest your food well. Be prepared to not be able to eat, like all the disclaimers that we went through. You're not going to detoxify well. It may get autoimmune conditions. Like those need to be discussed. And I don't know if I haven't looked into it. I haven't looked at a GLP. I've never been to a Ozempic page, GLP-1. I don't know what they're saying,
Do you
right?
have your
And
phone?
no.
I was gonna say you could pull one up.
Yeah.
I can't because I'm recording on my phone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but
it they
I
do
think
use the word skinny a lot. So that is
yeah.
the term skinny has become very socially acceptable. I'm not saying that it's not, like
Yeah.
because somebody is naturally skinny, that's no reason to poo-poo them. We're not
Yeah.
poo-pooing that. It's
Yeah.
literally this culture that's up and coming. So um yeah, there's influencers who have links in their bios to become like they are affiliates for the GLP-1s.
And you can just, like, inject it?
I I believe so. I haven't looked into that side of it, but what I do know is that there are influencers who are literally just like
Are they, like, use my discount code?
yes, use my discount code is what I'm saying. So you can do that for specific companies that can provide for you these GLP-1s online. So now there's incentive for social media influencers to promote products like this, which incentivizes becoming skinnier. So then they get a larger following in this niche, and that just kind of goes downhill from there.
I we need to acknowledge that there are certain situations where I'm sure the GLP-1s are extremely helpful for someone that's,
Yeah,
like, extremely overweight, right?
yeah.
But this should not be, uh, used for most people. This should be a drug.
No, it's in no scenario does it make sense for an already skinny person to use this drug to become skinnier.
Yeah.
That's not what it's medically for. That's not what it's for in general. But it has been promoted for that now. So
Okay, so now we we're recreating the product page for this. So
mhm,
Ozempic, GLP-1, disclaimers, or whatever. Maybe there's other brands now.
I think
Disclaimers.
so.
And then I want to create another page that says like there is another way. There's another way to do this. And I wish that this was something that was talked about more because I think that sometimes people join like skinny culture or are you saying that skinny culture like they don't really even care. It's just I need to be model thin as in that's all I care about.
Okay. I've seen two sides of the coin on this because it's everywhere on my feed now that I've clicked into it. I've seen people who are saying that it's healthy, that they're saying that all that matters is micronutrients. So they're still getting their nutrients from, let's say they're eating like salmon, almonds, berries, like they're eating things that are quote unquote like the health superfoods, right? And I'm not saying that those are, but so they're saying that they're still healthy because they're getting all these nutrients from this food, but the calorie part doesn't matter. So there's still they're
But
still
the purpose of your
demonstrating a low
nutrients,
calorie diet.
the purpose of your nutrients, honey, is to move the energized electrons in your food through your mitochondria. And so if you don't have things like you need the energy macros for the micros to do something.
Yeah. So there's that side of it, which that's the girl who's literally like she ends the video with "Stay skinny." So like that's her.
Okay.
I don't have her name, but I've seen her a lot. And then there's other women who it does appear to be more of a plain blatant anorexia, which I'm not saying the other example isn't, but
Yeah.
she's trying to like put a health stamp on it.
Yeah.
Whereas this other group, it appears, at least from the comments, that they don't mind being associated with an eating disorder because skinny is beautiful and therefore just let me be beautiful. So I do think there's probably little niches within this niche. Um yeah,
That's probably the group that is saying that like women shouldn't have muscle. You need to be like really thin bone to be attractive to a male. Like, gosh,
oh
just
really? I
yeah.
haven't seen that.
That's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
the
definitely the same group then.
that's no, it's like a there are people saying like, "Oh, I started lifting weights and I got bulky," right? And it's like, no, bulky is just too much like fat on top of your muscles. But then they think that it's the muscles, and so then they like actively not they try to get rid of their muscles. So
Well, the only thing that I could possibly understand about this from personal experience is that, yeah, if you aren't pretty darn lean and you have a good amount of muscle, you do take up more space and your shape is larger. For an example, I don't know why, but I literally was, when I was going through my bodybuilding teen stage, I just did all those lat pull downs. Okay. And I had a very wide, large back. And when I'm at a healthy body weight, that does lend towards, you know what? I think it's a clothing problem because it lends towards not fitting in female clothes as well because the backs and the chest area are generally not set up for a woman with lats,
yeah,
right? So I could see how that could lead towards like, oh my God, I'm filling over my shirt. Oh my God, I'm filling over my bra, like that kind of thing.
yeah.
But again, that's not a problem with me or you. It's a problem with the way that we're still trying to fit into clothes that don't fit anymore. And
Yeah,
that's another thing is like this whole thing uh moving through childhood to teens to adulthood and trying to keep your same wardrobe.
yeah,
That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But yeah, I could see how that could feed into maybe if I was just skinnier, I could go back to that other clothes.
yeah.
When I felt, I was super sexy at this age, right? Like I'm going back to when I was 16. But that is not what the body is supposed to look like when you're 30.
No.
Physiologically, all function is different. You're supposed to be able to birth.
I don't wanna look like what I looked at 16.
No, but that's 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 like a desire for some people now. Again, I totally understand it. Like I've been there.
Yeah.
I
It's
have
the is it
been
the
there.
new trend?
I don't know how big it is. It seems very large.
Yeah.
The fact that I have seen as much content as I have with as much traction and comments and the fact that it's even able to fill my feed on social media, I feel like that shouldn't be.
It's
I mean,
gotta
yeah, freedom
be
of speech, but that is just unhealthy.
it's unfortunately gotta be a big part of, like, high school girls right now, which
Yeah,
is
you
really
would
sad.
think so. Yeah. And so we've always, as women, and I'm sure men too, we've always had to deal with like how style is presented to us. How even when we're online shopping, 99% of the time when you buy the clothes, it doesn't look like what it looks like on the model because I actually have hips and I have some size on my legs and my arms aren't real thin. So I'm
Got some
like, oh,
biceps, got some lats.
right. And the thing is, like, I really don't even have that much, but I, comparatively to how the clothes is presented to me on somebody who's very, very, very thin, like 5'10", 120 pounds thin, it, it doesn't, we've had to deal with that for a long time as women, right? Like that's normal, but it seems like now that there is the push in social media. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how large it is, but there's now the push in social media for women to look like that again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I think it's important that we, like, explain the difference between fat loss phases and skinny culture. So skinny culture is perpetually trying to be thin, real thin, like eating very low calories for long periods of time and like that's your only goal, right? Is to stay skinny culture. And so I think what we're seeing is that more and more people are grabbing onto that who don't necessarily want that for their life, but they're seeing that it's working. So then they maybe follow these trends, right? They eat really low calorie for a long period of time. They maybe try these GLP-1s or whatever. And that's where it becomes like a slippery slope because how do you come out of something like that, right? Like, how do you get out of a mindset? Versus an intentional short fat loss phase where yes, you calories in versus calories out matters. You have to eat less calories to be able to lose weight, but it's a very like mission driven get in, get it done, get out, go back to normal life, right? And I think it's important to distinguish between the two because we're not saying that wanting to lose fat is a bad thing because there are people who need to lose fat, but it doesn't need to come at this skinny culture mindset or these extremes that you're seeing or long term living in these things. The Minnesota starvation experiment clearly showed when you do long drawn out deficits, there are health consequences. And that's why we like the shorter term where you get in, get it done, get out, and you do lose fat during that time but then you can go back to normal maintenance mode life. So I'm in a short fat loss phase right now. I'm finishing up week 5 and I'm going to be done. So it's 5 weeks successful and I can't wait to go back to more of a muscle building maintenance phase of life where I'm going to push maintenance calories as high as possible and do the opposite of skinny culture and try to eat as much as possible while not gaining weight. So I think do you wanna touch on that a little bit, like, the differences?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Because I mean, that's what Transform is about, right?
Yeah,
It's to help women and men avoid the trap of chronically dieting.
yeah.
and to still see successful fat loss without negatively impacting your metabolism and health long term.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you're a great example of that. You are going through a short fat loss phase. You were very successful. You set yourself up for success by eating enough prior. And when we say eating enough, it doesn't mean like gaining weight and eating enough and eating, out of control and all that stuff. It's this idea of a maintenance, right? The
I
place that we're supposed to eat in that's a healthy amount of calories to allow for normal function of your body and enjoyment of life,
Yeah.
you know?
My calories during my fat loss phase was like 1,700 calories,
So a
and
thousand more than the skinny culture.
that's, like, what people eat normally day to day, right? And I think
Right.
that that's where I wish that people better understood, like, if you spent time working on your maintenance and habits, then your fat loss phase would be so much easier and more successful. Yes, it takes work. Yes, you have to put in the work, but it's short term. You get in, you get it done, you get out, and then go back to normal living rather
Yeah.
than this, like, perpetual skinny culture cycle yo-yo dieting from one to the next. If you're still trying to lose weight and it's like a year later, like that's almost a form of like your own skinny culture, right? Where you're unfortunately not doing things that are working well, and so your life has become
Yeah.
grabbing on to anything that you think is going to help. It shouldn't be that way. It doesn't need to be that way. The better approach is working on building up your maintenance calories and your habits so that way your maintenance calories are high and then that way your body does respond to a lower calorie. How many people have we seen go through transform where they come in and they're like, "Yeah, my normal like I'm eating like 1,600 calories a day but I'm not losing weight." Your metabolism was down regulated as you like have been chronically trying to yo-yo diet and you probably didn't track everything, would have binges, and so yeah, your day to day maybe 1,600, but over the course of the week it may be a lot higher with binges and things like that. So I think it's just it's not just skinny culture. I think that there is a mindset around dieting in general where we need to celebrate eating more because when we eat more, when it is time to do a fat loss phase, it's going to be a lot easier. You give your body more runway. If you're eating 1,600 calories a day and then you actually want to lose weight, okay, maybe you got to eat 1,000 calories. That who can do that besides the skinny culture girls? That's so
Well,
small.
I hate to break it to you though, this you are not the ideal physique for what these girls are trying to achieve. So like when you're saying like, "Oh, I went through a fat loss phase," like, yeah, you still got muscle and some fat on you in a good way, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah. I got a booty. I built my booty.
what they're trying to achieve is not that. It is actually uh, sticks,
Yeah.
bones. So yeah, I mean, there's the women who are like, "Oh, I really wanna just lose the last 5 pounds." That's kinda who we're talking about more, the last 10, last 15, last 20 pounds, who reasonably like, can. And then there's this culture now that's already the women who don't need to lose weight, but they're becoming skinnier. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely 2 different approaches, 2 different groups. One is way more concerning than the other, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But so the you being in a car right now, there's also so you said there's 2 different people. There's, like, the ones who are gonna eat next to nothing, and then there's the group like what you're doing where it's a controlled amount of time for, a caloric deficit, and then you move out of that and eat in maintenance. But I think what we also need to normalize more is the third group, which is women who are literally just living their lives and they're fueling themselves without tracking. They
Yeah.
don't they don't care if they're in a cut or maintenance or whatever because their life is fulfilled.
Yeah.
They're just living. That's what I'm trying to achieve, and part of that comes with
Hey,
accepting.
you did another phase last year. Don't make
Yeah,
me
I mean,
feel
I've
bad.
already been through transform, but now
Yeah.
I'm just so past um the
But would you okay,
I've
would you
I've
feel
done
that
enough in the
way?
track.
Would you have felt that way before you did the first transform program?
No, like, and I say this before in other podcasts, like, Transform really helped me get to a comfortable place with my
Yeah, yeah.
body,
Yeah,
with my metabolism, with trusting myself, that I'm now at a healthy place where my goal is to just eat and live, and I have the habits in place where I can do that without
Yeah.
gaining weight and without unnecessarily losing weight because I can always know how to adjust that. But I'm also realizing as I, you know, think about motherhood in the future and wanting to be a fertile person, I this is really hard with what is shown on social media, especially in the fitness world and in this new skinny culture. But realizing that it's also healthy to just not be any of that and to just be a woman body and to have your curves and to be at a healthy body weight.
Yeah.
How can we normalize the normal people who
No,
are just healthy, you
no,
know?
that was one of the things I wanted to bring up at the end here is, like, okay, what are, like, action steps that we can actually do, right? And I think that if we have daughters, I want a daughter, I really want a daughter, like, really badly, communicating this with them because I think it comes from, like, a young age understanding what it means to be healthy, and it's a like, how do you have this conversation? If you're homeschool, you can have a little bit more control of it. Well, what are they teaching at schools? What are the friends saying? And so I think that that is, like, action steps is how do we figure out how to tell the next generation all the things that stupid stuff that we've done, not let them do that, right? Like,
I have 3 things
yeah, let's
that
hear it.
come to mind. So the first would be you are the most important example. So how you live your own life, what you say about yourself, what you say when you look in the mirror. I love my mom to pieces, but we would go to dressing room try-ons and she would tear her body apart. And that was being exposed to that at a young age is not going to help
Yeah,
me not tear my own body apart.
yeah.
2, what they're exposed to on social media and like you said, like at school and stuff. So I do think it's important to have filters on that and to not let them see all this stuff going on and to not be going into these rabbit holes at such a young age and seeing these women who are saying stay skinny and all that stuff like that is absolutely inappropriate. So I don't know if the solution is simply homeschooling. Like I don't know how to avoid that, but that's personally my solution for that. Um, and or education and telling your daughters like that is not healthy. Here's what's going to happen. All these disclaimers we talked about. And then 3 kind of ties into both of these, but just living an active lifestyle in general,
Yeah,
because just being in sport, being focused on strength, running around the soccer field, let's go hiking this weekend, like that lends itself towards, all right, what snacks are we bringing? Let's be well fueled. Let's feel good. Let's eat our banana. Like that lifestyle is something that I saw growing up that I envied of other people who I see where they are now, and they don't have health issues, they don't have body I mean, they might have something under the surface, but for the most part, the people that I saw growing up who were so focused on, being on the soccer field and eating dinner with their family and living life, they now just have a normal, healthy relationship with food and life, from what I can tell, right? I don't know everything, but without this fixation on
girl.
yeah.
Golf was life.
I know, but you then exposed yourself to a bodybuilding type style world. You wanted
Yeah,
to become extremely thin. You
yeah,
started to restrict food in your own way. You were doing the clean eating. So when rules come into it, like there's already an issue there. So just living a lifestyle that lends itself to naturally having a healthy body. So that involves activity, but also the food choices,
yeah.
right? That's my 3 things. Of course, neither of us are parents, but
Uh,
uh,
yeah, I
that's how I
exactly.
would personally approach it. Yeah.
But, I mean, if I think back, like, I think you your parents are the most important people in your life when you're young, and, it comes full circle, right? Like, my parents are some of the most important people in my life now, right? But at such a young age, I do think that that should be a big focus is, like, not be in skinny culture or diet culture when you're a mom because they could be emulating or, like, listening, right?
They are. It's not they could, they are.
Yeah. And so having a normalizing meals, right? Like, eat like a woman, eat like an adult. That's one thing that is hard for me to see on social media sometimes, even people not in skinny culture, they'll post a picture of their meal and I'm like, that's 300 calories. That's not a meal, right? Like that's a legitimate snack. And so I think being really mindful of our own actions because like you said they're not just they are listening. And so we're just speculating here, but I think that it is important when we're talking about action steps is like the next generation, what can we do to help them learn from our mistakes?
Yeah. So, with all that said, I'm curious if you, as a listener, have seen any of this, what your thoughts are, what your experiences are. I don't know if you're listening on YouTube or maybe can pop it a comment on one of our Instagrams. I'd love
I
to
do
know what you think.
I do wanna end with, like, the whole, like, I think strong is sexy,
Yeah.
and I think that I don't like it doesn't work well f I don't want to be really, like, frail thin, right? Like, that's not I want muscle mass. I will never have enough muscle mass in my body in my lifetime. I will always want more. Um, and I think if we touch briefly on just the benefits of having muscle because these groups are literally actively trying to get rid of muscle, but like having more muscle mass is going to be protective of your bones, right? Strength training is going to lead to improved bone strength, less chance of developing osteoporosis, better joint health, functioning better in life, right? You don't get aches and pains because the muscle is helping support your body. You're better at utilizing carbs and fat for fuel, better metabolic health because like the muscle is an active tissue. And then people don't like muscle builds shape. And yes, there's like normal natural curves. Some people are going to have different curves because our bones sit at various places in our body. We all have different biomechanics, but muscle helps build better shape throughout the body. And so I think that we really need to like put some love on muscle. Like strong is sexy. No one is going to become bodybuilder crazy big size. Like you're not going to. The rate of muscle growth is so small. And so I think that another thing is highlighting the benefits of having muscle mass because I think that that will encourage the right type of habits, strength training, eating enough to fuel those workouts, progressing and like building strength in the gym is it can help in so many ways and it's literally the opposite of what is being said in skinny culture. So I think that that
Yeah.
could be another
Well,
solution is just a general conversation on like the love of muscle.
I totally agree. S- A small caveat to that, though, is that there's also issues with the fitness industry because
Oh
that's where
yeah.
my eating disorder started was
Yes.
seeing these muscly women. They're so, so, so lean.
Yeah.
And then also the comparison of your physique to someone else's when it's like, oh my God, look at how much great curves they have. Look how big their butt is. And then never achieving that for yourself because you've set impossible expectations. So also just normalizing and appreciating and loving like your womanly body. And yeah, muscle is super important. And I totally agree with you. But also it's okay to not seek out
Well,
a certain physique or excess muscle,
that's the most important thing is like
not excess, just more muscle.
with muscle building, it's you versus you. Like you're never going to look like anyone else. And what someone else is doing has literally zero correlation to your success because like let's say you're doing like 5 pounds for something and you increase to 10 and you increase to 15, that leads to muscle mass building for you. And that's I think what people miss on with strength training is like you're never going to look like someone else, and that's taken me a really long time to get to that type of, like, mindset, right? Because we all have different limb lengths, and if we
Well, no, I think we can all classify ourselves as a different fruit. Hello, I am an apple shape,
but
that kind of thing. So
I
like
think
you naturally build out differently.
it's important to understand why, though, like, okay, limb lengths are,
Yeah.
like, the distances between your joints, right? And we all have different limb lengths. And what traverses those limb lengths? Your muscles, because your muscles connect at each of the joints. So let's just really simplify with the bicep, right? If someone has a longer limb length here, that means that the same amount of muscle mass has to traverse longer. Whereas if you've got a short bone here, that means your biceps gonna look a little bit beefier because the same amount of muscle mass doesn't need to move. For
Yeah.
me, that's my legs, and so I've, like, gotten over that I'm never gonna have really nice, like, quads because my femurs are really
Oh,
long, so the distance between my hip bone and my knee, that femur bone is really long, and so
but,
even
like,
though
you just made a mistake though, like, y you do have nice quads, like, we need to stop talking about
okay,
ourselves in that way, like, truly, and I
but
think
that
the problem with the fitness world is that, we see things and we're all in leggings and tight clothing, and that's the goal for
I
people,
don't
is
wear
like,
leggings.
how big can I make my butt look in these leggings? And that's the problem, because we should just be doing these things for the sake of being healthy,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, like, how do we get back to that?
I was just trying to explain
I
why
know, I just needed to correct you,
I
sis.
know, like, you are never gonna look like anyone else because we all have different limb lengths, and your muscles are gonna be spread out in different distances like an accordion, depending on your limb lengths, and so it's impossible to do that.
Yeah. And I'm at a point where I don't care. You know what? I don't care. and
Yeah, but
I think
it's also okay if someone does want more muscle
no,
mass.
no, yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I mean, no, not to like look like exactly like someone else. I don't think like any no, if that's your goal, like good luck.
I
But
want more muscle mass.
and that's great. I'm at the point where I'm just like, I'm super happy. I'm gonna keep living my life to keep being healthy, you know?
Are you gonna
But like,
still strength train?
yeah, but like life is okay. I've lived my phone's gonna die any moment here, but I've lived almost 2 decades of my life chasing a physique.
Yeah.
Why can't I live a life where I'm just chasing being healthy and happy, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at, because to me that's not fulfilling anymore. It's just not my priority. And like, you don't see that a lot because that's not the content that's popular, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I guess you could akin it
I
to like
think
somebody who posts about hiking or like nature because maybe they're just happy and content. Again, Ash, I'm not saying anything bad about, like, of course we do transform program, we do train to change, like we
no,
promote
no.
strength training.
I think that I think that that's beautiful, but I think it's taken you a lot of habits to get to that place, right?
Habits and going through all these cultures, like being
And
traumatized by them.
yeah, and you did
Yeah.
build a decent amount of muscle mass.
Yes, yeah, like I don't I really hard like right now I'm at a stage in my life. I just had surgery, which is a good topic for another podcast,
Yeah.
but I can't work out for 6 weeks other than walking and like doing some rebounding. But I'm not like worried I'm gonna lose all my muscle mass because I know how to eat to keep it, you
So
know?
that well, that's the thing, like, once you build muscle, the volume, meaning the sheer amount of times you need to lift is so low, like, to maintain. Okay, Sarah's phone just died. So that is going to be the end of this week's podcast discussing skinny culture. And we don't mean anything negative by it. It's just we have lived through it at a young age and we personally felt the consequences and experience of it. And I think it's very dangerous for young girls to go through. And so just want to make sure that if you do have young girls, if you plan to have young girls, I really, really want a daughter at some point. Like just making sure that we're all being super careful about the words that we say, the actions that we show them, because that does impact how they view health and how they view the importance of eating enough and celebrating eating more, right? Like I think we should be happy about being able to eat more food and not gaining weight because that's a sign of a stronger metabolism, more robust metabolism. So that was the purpose of today's conversation. And uh, we'll talk about this a lot more. But any questions or concerns that you guys have, make sure to put them in the comments below. And until our next podcast, stay rooted in resilience.